HUD limits reductions in small area FMRs from year to year. Generally, HUD will set the FMRs at a level that is no lower than 90% of the previous year's FMR for the FMR area. In the year that a metropolitan area first implements small area FMRs, the small area FMR for each zip code will be no less than 90% of the metro area FMR in the previous fiscal year. In subsequent years, the relationship between the small area FMR and the metro area FMR will no longer be relevant. The only applicable restriction from that point forward is that the small area FMRs will be no lower than 90% of the previous year's small area FMRs for that zip code.
In certain cases, HUD may suspend small area FMRs for a metropolitan area or temporarily exempt individual PHAs from use of small area FMRs. This action may be initiated by HUD or at the request of the PHA. The suspension or exemption must be based on a documented determination by HUD that such action is warranted due to adverse rental housing market conditions currently affecting the area. These conditions may apply to the rental housing market as a whole, or they may be unique to a segment of the rental market that is affordable and available to families with vouchers. PHAs considering a request for a suspension or temporary exemption should contact their HUD field office representatives. The following are some examples of actions or conditions that may serve as the basis for suspension or temporary exemption from small area FMRs. A presidentially declared disaster area that results in the loss of substantial number of housing units. Vacancy rates falling below 4%. A rapid increase in the PHA's per unit costs, causing the PHA to experience a funding shortfall, or a sudden influx of households in the metropolitan area.
Payment standards determine the maximum subsidy amount a PHA can pay toward rent on behalf of a voucher family. Payment standards are based on FMRs set by HUD, but are determined locally by PHAs. All PHAs must set payment standards for each unit within the basic range, between 90 and 110% of the FMR, unless HUD has previously approved an exception payment standard for the area. We'll discuss payment standard exceptions later in the webcast. The shift to small area FMRs may mean that current payment standard amounts no longer fall within the basic range for the applicable FMR. When this is the case, it will be necessary for PHAs to revise their payment standard amounts to stay within the basic range of the new FMRs, unless the payment standard has previously been approved by HUD and falls below the basic range or is an exception payment standard. PHAs may only establish payment standards that fall outside the basic range in accordance with HUD requirements. In fiscal year 2018, HUD expects PHAs in designated small area FMR areas to implement revised payment standards no later than April 1st, 2018. In fiscal year 2019 and beyond, PHAs will have 3 months from the time newly posted FMRs are effective to revise payment standards if needed to stay within the basic range. For example, if HUD publishes FMRs that become effective on October 1, 2018, and the new standards fall outside the basic range, the PHA would need to implement a revised payment standard schedule that is effective no later than January 1, 2019. In zip codes where the payment standard amount is already within 90 to 110% of the small area FMR, the PHA may make revisions at any time, as long as the revised payment standard amount remains within the basic range. HUD advises PHAs to provide both the current and the pending payment standard schedules to families who have been issued a voucher and whose search will be underway when the PHA transitions to the revised payment standard. It is important for the family to understand when the new payment standard will go into effect and its relationship to the effective date of any HAP contract executed on behalf of the family. The Small Area FMR Guidebook provides greater detail on when to apply the revised payment standard.
PHAs have a great deal of flexibility when setting payment standards within the basic range. For example, in a zip code with a one-bedroom small area FMR of $900, a PHA could set the payment standard as low as $810 or as high as $990. In some zip codes, and for some unit sizes, it may be advantageous to set payment standards at the top of the basic range, while in others, a PHA may choose to set payment standards at the bottom or middle of the range. PHAs may use different percentages of the FMR for different bedroom sizes within the same zip code. For example, a PHA may set the payment standard for studio apartments and 1 and 2 bedroom apartments at 100% of the small area FMR, and use 110% of the small area FMR for 3 bedroom and larger units. Using different percentages for different bedroom sizes may be helpful in increasing access to certain types of housing, but adds administrative complexity for the PHA.